Hello, folks. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting evening. I think it's around 7:30 on Saturday night. My name is Tank Nelson. Air America has asked me to come in and, well, talk for a while. And first they asked me what I wanted to talk about, and I said I'd like to talk about the movies. It's something I know, well, a bit about. Not a great deal, but a bit. And so when they said come in, I said yes. Just recently, in fact, a few minutes ago, I was sitting in a room with my engineer producer, Drew, and he said, what are you going to talk about? And I said, well, it's hard to say. You're starting off. I don't have a co-host, so I can't play with that. We don't have call-ins, so I can't use that. And I thought, well, you know, you can struggle on the radio. I'm doing a little bit of it now. You're thinking, I got to start off. Well, then I thought, we got to have a name for it. We're going to be here Saturday nights. Well, when I was young, which was a while ago, when I was young, everybody went to the movies on Saturday night. It was men came home from work on Friday night. They were tired, so they didn't go. The Saturday night was going to lead into Sunday when they'd get up for whatever reason. Most people didn't work on Sunday. So Saturday night was the big deal. I thought, why not call it Saturday Night at the Movies? And here we are. You're out there, I'm here in the studio, and I would like to talk about movies. And so in that idea, let's just start. When I was talking to Drew, he asked me, we talked before about favorite movies. Very hard to pin down favorite movies. I mostly say Dr. Strangelove because it was one of the great movies ever made. And then I drop into the old Robin Hood with Errol Flynn, one of the great movies ever made. But like so many movies, they're really separate identities. I mean, you can't compare them, as you can't compare any movie. But moving up from that, leaving those two back there, we can talk about those later on, another show. I hope there's another show. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But right now, what came out of that original talk with Drew was a movie we've seen many times. He said that Apocalypse Now was his maybe all-time at about 12. Well, I came back with The Magnificent Seven. I've seen it about 33 times. Well, of course, it came out in the 60s, so that's not so many times per year, but 33 times. Now, this is a very interesting movie. Well, it's an interesting movie on many levels for many reasons, but one of the things that has always fascinated me was the music. Now, everybody knows the theme from The Magnificent Seven. But when you're in the movie, when you're watching the film, it could be on television, on a DVD or whatever, you're watching this movie, the music, you have these seven guys, well, there's six and then there's seven, but you have these seven guys riding across vast areas of ground, and all there is the music. It swells up, you see them riding, it swells up again, you see them riding. There's a good chunk of that movie where they're riding and the music's playing. Then you realize the music is giving you excitement, drama, courage, all the things that are playing in this movie is coming out of that music. So they can cover this great area of distance. The music is playing, and all the time you're anticipating where they're going to go and what they're going to do. That's one of the things that makes this movie outstanding. Well, spinning off of that outstanding, go back to the first The Magnificent Seven. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen them. Probably everybody has seen it. It's played forever. Back to the first of the movie. One of the things that I believe directors try and do, I've spoke about this before, but I believe directors are real movie fans. And they try all kinds of ways, but what they're really trying is they're trying to get you, capture you, hold you, create your interest from the first light on the screen. In the old days, they used to open up curtains, and the screen would appear, then the movie would come on. Nowadays, it's the light on the screen. You know, the commercials, all the stuff they do nowadays. But the first light on the screen, they're trying to get you into the movie. Well, in The Magnificent Seven, the opening scene where the guy that sells corsets, a great old character, I don't remember his name now, but he was in lots of movies in the 50s and 60s. Anyway, he had stepped over this guy that had died, the Indian Joe or whatever his name was, and he wants to have him buried. and the Undertaker, and I don't remember his name, another great character actor, the Undertaker would love to bury him, but there's these town people that are against it. Now, I mean, this is the Old West, and because this guy's an Indian, he doesn't deserve to be buried. Now, the argument ensues, and they're back and forth, and that's when Yul Brynner, you first see him, and he's got that look. And, of course, Brynner can have that look. And he says, well, if that's, I think his line is, if that's all that's holding you up, I'll do it, because they couldn't get drivers because they were afraid. So he's walking over, and he takes out, he has that, a lot of props in movies. With him, it was a cigar. Takes out the cigar, and he's walking over, and as that's taking place, the camera moves over, and you see Steve McQueen. Now, McQueen was already well known, but this is gonna make Steve McQueen as he's gonna vault him into the top echelon. Well, Steve McQueen does something then. I didn't recognize it then. I recognize it now because I've seen lots of Steve McQueen movies. He does something that is what I don't know what they call it in acting, but it is awfully clever. When tension is rising and he's going to do something hard, heroic, dangerous, whatever you want to call it. What Steve McQueen does, and if you watch Bullet, you'll see it, and if you watch Never So Few, you'll see it. You'll see it in many, the Sand Pebbles, you'll see it. When he's going to do something, what we call it exciting, something that's going to move the movie up a notch, he wipes his palms. In the Magnificent Seven, he'll later do it when they're going to have the gunfight. But here, he's asking the original driver for the shotgun, and he says, "Can I borrow your scatter gun?" And the guy hands him the gun. Now, there's two nice bits of business here. When he opens the breech of the double barrel shotgun, he takes out the shells and he shakes them. He shakes them by his ear to make sure they're loaded. I mean, you think this guy is the true professional, somebody that really knows what he's doing. So they're setting the tone. But then after he closes it, and he's going to walk over to the hearse. When he's going to walk over, he takes his hands and he rubs them on his shirt because his palms are getting sweaty. And if you've ever, well, actually, my palms are a little sweaty now. This is our first show. I'm sitting behind a microphone talking to somebody out there at Radioland. I'm going to rub them on my shirt. You won't see it, you won't hear it, but that's what I'm going to. Actually, I'm rubbing it on my pants, and these are my pants. This is a Steve McQueen move. He rubs his hands. Now, that's a great bit of business because if you maybe you don't even know it. Maybe you're not, that subliminal thing. You see him rub his hands, his hands are sweaty, the tension is rising. Now, this is all only minutes of the thing, but he gets up, they get up on the hearse, that black thing, and had a big feather wind up. They climb up, the two of them. Now, the camera comes in close, and the music is coming up. And they're going to take this hearse and go up, if you've seen the movie, they're going to take it up the hill. And there's conversations between, they introduce each other to each other. They're going up the hill. That's what, I love this movie. That's what they're going up the hill. And as they start, and of course the music again is starting to rise. And they're starting up the hill with the hearse. The crowd is coming in behind them. That's where you first see Hertz Buckles, the kid that's going to be the seventh guy. He's back there behind him, and the camera picks him up, and you can see the excitement in his eyes because he's seen what he wants to be. These two guys that will take on a challenge because they just have the nerve to do it. Now, as they move up this street, there's this chit-chat going back and forth, and they're looking around, and the guy, I think it's Brynner, says the top window on the left. And you look, the camera goes up there, and you see the curtain move a little bit, and one of them says, "Not yet, I didn't see him." Well, as they get closer, the guy fires. And, of course, when the guy fires, McQueen spins around and shoots both barrels through the window. And they go on. And I remember the line. He says, I think it's McQueen. McQueen says to Brynner, "Were you elected?" And Brynner takes a cigar out of his mouth, and the end's been shot off. Now, this is a bit of show business because I don't think anybody could be that calm if they shot, but he does. He says, "No, but I was nominated real well." Now they go up the hill. Well, I'm going on and on, but anyway, they get up the hill. There's a confrontation. The two guys, they win out because they're better, and they turn the hearse around and they go back down the hill. Well, they're going back down the hill. This music, because Magnificent Seven, the music is a gigantic part of the movie. They're going down the hill. As they go down the hill and the music comes up, you are just, I mean, you've only been in the movie 10 minutes and you're already, as the director would like to have you, you're already captured. What are these two guys going to do after they get down the hill? Now they get down, there's a conversation, the back and forth. The guy that was going to pay the $20 of this, I mean, it is just moving rapidly. It's moving sharp. It's moving quick. It's just a ton of fun. I mean, people are shooting and all that. You could maybe fun is the well, not fun is the word. Movies are fun. Anyway, that scene is over, and they're riding off, supposedly in separate directions because there's no work. They're gunslingers. There's no work here. Well, that bit of business from the opening shot to when they part. One of the great openings in any movie. Now, a little side business here, and to tell you that that I watch this movie a lot. The movie's played early 60s. I've seen it in theaters a couple of times. Seen it on television when they first brought it out, maybe another couple of times. I said, well, I've seen it 32, so I watched it a lot. Well, this is in somewhere in the late 80s or early 90s. KHJ-TV in L.A., which is no longer that, Channel 9, they bought a library of movies. And in that library, I mean, these are really, these are what you call B movies. But in that library was The Magnificent Seven. And so I'm coming home from work one night, and I'm looking at a TV guide or whatever I was doing, and here it is. It's playing at, let's call it 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever it was. The Magnificent Seven. I think, well, terrific. So as you do, you get a bite to eat, you get that, you have a shower, you settle down, and I'm going to watch it because it's a favorite. It's a nice way to spend the evening. I mean, I could even, well, as you know, just from listening to me now, I can tell you most of the lines. But I'm going to sit down and watch The Magnificent Seven. So I'm snuggled down, big leather chair, television's on, up comes the movie. They took the first part off. They just cut it. I mean, they cut like the first 15 minutes of the movie. It starts with the three Mexicans from the village riding into town. That's where the movie starts. I'm thinking, did I? And I'm can't figure it out. I mean, I know what the movies are like, but here's the guys. They come in, and I'm watching the movie. I'm thinking, this is crazy. I mean, the one great movie they have in their library, and they slash off the first 15 minutes, which is probably one of the great openings of all time. Well, as I'm watching it, and this was fun for me. The three Mexican men are at a table talking with Brenner. And Steve McQueen comes back because there is no work. And he sits down with, in fact, the guy sends him over and McQueen's just lost his money gambling. And Brenner invites him over to the table. And they're talking. Well, he hears about the job in Mexico, which these three guys are offering. And he says, well, I can't find out much about it, whatever. And they're talking. And he says, when he finds out what the money offer is, he says, well, I can't afford to work for that. Well, the Mexican guy says, well, yes, there's a job for this and there's a job for that. Well, you realize that this was all talked about in the first 15 minutes. So if you're watching this movie, if you were watching Channel 9 that night and you had never seen The Magnificent Seven and you assumed it starts with the three Mexican guys from the village riding in, you'd ask, why did they know this question? And so they dropped the first 15 minutes. Well, after I'd watched it for a little while, now I know I'm going on and on, but you're out there riding in your car or sitting at home, whatever you're doing, so we'll just be having a little chat here. In this deal, when I realize what's going on, I get on the phone. I had to look up the number in the phone book, but I call Channel 9. Well, it's night. You can't, they tell you call back or whatever it was. They didn't have that, all the stuff they have now where they put you through the paces. It was just nobody was there. Well, that's the way it goes. I didn't watch the rest of the movie. I was a little irritated by all this, and I turned it off, watched something else. Time passed. The next day, I come home. Got the number. I call up Channel 9. And I'm in San Pedro, California. They're in Of course, they're in L.A. Call them up, and I start to complain about what happened. Well, they give me their movie guy, their man and head of the movies. I remember his name was Baker. I don't remember why. That's a long time ago, but I still remember his name. And I said to him, have you ever seen the movie? Well, it turns out that, can you imagine having a guy in charge of movies that doesn't go to the movies? He'd never seen The Magnificent Seven. They cooked the 15 minutes off for time. The 2 hours with commercials, the way they do it is to edit the movie. They do that a lot on television, but that's another story. But he'd taken the best, not the best, well, maybe one of the best openings in any movie. They'd taken it off to shorten it for commercials. So I'm out here, and of course I'm a movie goer. I am incensed. But I'm talking to this, I don't know that he was young, old, whatever he was, this Mr. Baker. But we're talking, and I was trying to explain to him that well, actually the whole world is movie fans. But Americans grew up with the movies. There wasn't television. Pardon me for a second, I'm going to cough for a minute. when you're doing radio, sometimes there's a button you can press and it just pauses over. But this is it just passed over now. Anyway, America grew up on movies. I mean, when I was a kid, the best thing that could happen is you get to go to the movies. And like I said, no television, radio, of course, and radio was terrific. Well, we're doing radio now. Radio was terrific. There were stories on radio. There was entertainment on radio. There's all kinds of things on radio. But the movies, my goodness, the movies. You could go in, sit. I'm going to. My producer engineer just went to get me a glass of water. But the movies. Here he is. He's back. He's saved. No, he said we could take a break, but we don't need to take a break. I need to take a small drink. You stay right there. There we go. It's nice having a producer, engineer, and well, thank you, Drew. Okay, where were we? We're in the movies. Can you imagine in the old days? Now, I was just a kid. Let's make me 6 years. I know I'm shifting off over here, but I'm going to get back to the Magnificent Seven. You're 6 years old. Going to take another drink of water. Hang on out there. Don't go away. That's better. I don't know what kind of water it is, but it's very tasty. 6 years old, by yourself. And there's a lot of we won't. Just take any 6-year-old. You go to a theater. These were neighborhood, little theaters. You go in. You pay him your dime. Now, I'm talking about this is a long time. I'm talking about the 30s, folks. This is a long time ago. You pay him a dime. Maybe a nickel, but it was a dime. You pay him a dime. You pass by the guy that takes your ticket, often the owner of the theater. Tears the ticket, gives you the stub so you can prove you paid. You go in, double doors, and in those days, not today, but in those days, there was an usher, flashlight, all that. And the usher would ask you, would you like me to show you your seat? Well, I'm 6 years old. I don't want you to show me. I says, no, I'll find it. Well, the kids, for some reason, I to this day, I don't know. Young kids always went down in the front of the theater, down in the first rows. Now, I was kind of shy. And I didn't necessarily mix, but I would go down and I would step back about 10 rows and go in. So I had kids in front of me and adults behind me. You sit down in the seat, and now there's this. Mostly it was guys, but I think there was. Yeah, eventually there was girl ushers or guy ushers. But anyway, they had flashlights, and they would walk around watching everything. So you could go into a theater and feel absolutely safe and sit there and watch a double feature, 2 movies, one good, one not so good, whatever. But you were safe, you were sound, you were entertained. Well, you start off your life with that as one of the great pleasures. You're going to be pretty much hooked on the movies. So Americans, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, coming up through the system, we were all big moviegoers. Television changed it starting in the 50s and really took over in the 60s, and there was even talk of demise in the movies. Of course, they've come back bigger than ever because people love to go to the movies. And in my case, I really love to go to the movies. Now, that said, put that aside. We'll go back to the Magnificent Seven. In the Magnificent Seven, in this thing, where they took it off, put it on. I talked to Baker. Now, I'm talking the next day, and I'm telling him, if you are going to show the American public a movie, I know that there's commercials have to be involved. We have to pay to have the movie. And of course, now you have pay TV, but we're going back into a ways back. But if you take a movie and respect it, care about it, be interested in it, there is so much to have, so much to gain. And I say, this little bit of business with the Hands with McQueen. Now, I'm 73 years old. I've been going to movies a very long time if I started when I was 6. But to discover, I mean, this is just fun. This is not earth-shattering. This is not recorded history or anything. But you discover that Steve McQueen, when he's going to do something of action, will wipe his hands on his pant leg, on his shirt, on his jacket, whatever, and you think, this is really, I mean, you feel part of it. You feel inside. Now, and I read the papers, I read magazines, you watch television, you listen. I've never heard anybody talk about this before. And so you feel like it's your own little game. You get to play inside your own little game. What a joy to be watching, well, let's say you're watching Bullitt. And when he is moving, I'm going to assume you saw Bullitt. when he's moving through the basement of that hospital, when he's going after the guy that has the ice pick that came in to kill the other guy, when he's moving through those lower parts of the hospital in the basement, and the great sound, because whoever directed Bullitt let the echoes happen, and that's just the way it sounds inside of a closed basement. But when he's walking in there and he's moving toward the guy's, he's hiding behind something, and where the tension's rising. And Bullitt doesn't have his gun out. In this case, Steve McQueen doesn't have his gun out, which was also interesting to me. But as he's going down, he stops and he listens, but there's no sound. And that's one of the cool things. There's no sound. There's no giveaway. And he reaches down, and you can see him. If you rent the movie, you can see it. He reaches down and he wipes his hands. And you know, I mean, if you're a Steve McQueen fan and you have some background, when he wipes his hands, you know that it's going to happen. And of course, seconds after that, the guy makes a break for it. The bad guy with the ice pick, he begins to run, and the foot chase is on. And of course, he gets away, and the movie goes on. Really a good movie. I mean, I like the Magnificent Seven. When Bullitt's on, I tend to watch it. But the fun of knowing when he wiped his hands that something's going to happen. That's one of the I mean, again, I've got a lot of experience at the movies, not technically experienced, but just going. I'm like you. I'm a movie fan. I go to the movies. I just love the movie. But to have that little bit of business that when you see him wipe his hands, you know something's going to happen. That is what makes it such a joy, such a kick. Now we're running. I've been running on for quite a while here, and we're gonna wind up. This show is gonna run about 25 minutes. So if you started at 7:34 or whatever it is, we must be coming up on almost 8 o'clock. But I assume I'll be here next week talking again. But to get current, I was going back I took you back a lot of years there to get current. And the movies. A lot of controversy now over the Da Vinci Code. I saw it last Friday night at the Bay Theater in Morro Bay. The Da Vinci Code is one of those movies that has huge, huge, huge hype for all kinds of reasons. Negative reasons, positive reasons. Lots of hype in this movie. But now, Tom Hanks, one of the best, and so I'm thinking, well, yeah, I gotta. My wife read the book. I didn't read the book. I read his two before that, but not that one. Go to the movie. The Da Vinci Code, besides, in my opinion, a lot of reviewers don't think, but in my opinion, the Da Vinci Code is a very good movie. The one thing about it that is really tricky is you have to listen so closely. The Da Vinci Code, because there's multiple accents. Then it's the way it is filmed. I mean, Ron Howard's the director, and he's got it. I mean, he's got you on the path. He's got you fascinated. He's got you all the things you'd want to be in a movie. But you have to listen. You actually have to listen into an extreme level. When movies are really good, how you lean forward in your seat. This one, I don't know if you have to lean forward. I mean, if you're gonna lean forward some of the places, but kind of. And the idea of leaning forward, listen really closely. Listen to what they say, because the clues, and of course there's false clues, MacGuffins or red herrings or whatever you wish to call them. The clues are all over the place. The clues are fun. The clues it's kind of like McQueen wiping his hands. If you pay attention, you're going to see things that other people don't say. And I think that's one of the things that makes the Da Vinci Code a fascinating movie. There's all kinds of things in it, all kind of things to play with. You'll have a good time. Well, anytime you go to the movies, you should have a good time. I hope every movie you see is a good movie. That's not possible, but we're going to give it a try. And if all goes well, I think we're coming right down on the time now. If all goes well, I'll be back here next Saturday night at the movies. And if you tune in, you'll have Tank Nelson, Saturday night at the movies. Yeah, soon. We're coming down. We got about a minute left. So we're going to go over the thing. When you go, if you go, enjoy it, listen closely, get inside the plot, and like directors always, I believe, want to capture you on the first part of the movie, first light on the screen. Let yourself be captured. One of the great, great fun things in the world is being pulled into a movie, being pulled into the plot, being pulled into the actors, being pulled into the emotion, letting the music play on your senses, on your thoughts, on your nerves, on whatever. And if you come out of the movie, talking about the movie and the people around you are talking about the movie, you've probably seen a pretty good movie. They're all over you, downtown, uptown, side town, traveled, whatever. Go have a good time. Keep smiling. And I'm laughing. I'm happy. As I said, one of my favorite things is laughing. Laugh a lot. I will see you next week.